This is episode number 20, the future of video and social media. Today we're going to talk with Troy. And Troy, how do you pronounce your last name? I'm so sorry.
Last name is Iwanchina, and don't worry, you're not the first to ever ask.
Yes, and I want to ask you where that last name came from. Very interesting to me. Our other guest, Grant Jones, it couldn't be an easier name, so there's no way I was going to mess that up. And they're both experts in creating video. So we're going to talk about the future of video and social media with them. Two very unique perspectives. I'm very excited to talk to both of them about it. So let's get started. I'm your host, Mark Fidelman, managing partner of Fanatics Media, also a columnist on Forbes. As a reminder, we're about how-to content, not so much the fluff that you see with other shows. If you have a question, just do a /Q on the left-hand side, and I'll see the question, and we'll answer it throughout the show. And also tweet out the blab on the left-hand side. Subscribe to the guests. Give props when answering question. The props are the two little hands that come together in the lower right-hand corner of the guest. And I think, Troy, we're about ready to get started. So Troy is VP and GM of NBCSports.com. And Grant Jones, who's trying to join us right now, has worked at The Onion, Condé Nast, and now The Kicker. It's interesting. I want to get into why he joined Condé Nast in between Onion and The Kicker. And The Kicker is described as a new sports-centric comedy website built for both the dedicated and casual sports fans. So kind of an interesting mix there. So, Troy, we're going to get started with you. And as we head into 2016, how should companies be looking at video? And, you've said, and I read it, I'm going to read a quote from you. As we looked at our 2015 strategy and now heading into 2016, we thought, let's take a fresh approach to what we're doing. Instead of looking at, digital as promotion, let's look at it as a business.
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you, Mark, for having me. And I think if you use that quote as a starting point for the conversation at hand today, what we have at NBC Sports is a great legacy, a great brand around producing video, especially live sports. We have big events like the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the NHL All-Star Game. I trust you and everyone watched that this past weekend. We do things amazingly well from a legacy television production perspective. And what our digital business has been is really an extension of linear television and following eyeballs. So just like media eyeballs have moved from radio to television to this thing called the internet, now all these social outlets, we too constantly evolve our business. And what we've looked at in digital for this coming year is not only to enhance what we're doing from a live event perspective, but also looking at short form video. The way millennials in particular, a mobile audience consumes is more so around short form video. So instead of just saying, let's take our linear TV product, put it into bite-sized chunks and make it available on mobile, on digital, and on social, let's have a proactive strategy where we will create some original content for a digital audience. And it might be a little bit outside of our comfort zone from what we typically do as a traditional linear television business. So that's what I meant by that.
Okay, but when you're looking at like it as a business, going forward in 2016, if that's true, then most of your revenue is going to be derived from video. Is that kind of what you were alluding to?
It is. It's our business right now. The core of it is around video. So if you look at NBC Sports, you think video, or you should. On top of that, we've got some great coverage. We have Roto World, which is a fantasy sports brand. We have NBC Sports Talk, which is mostly a print-based blog version, if you will, of great editorial coverage. and we have short form video. But the short form video, while it's always been a business, it's mostly been promotional in nature. Of course, we're still looking to feed the TV beast, so to speak. All of the video that we do ends up being an extension of our core investments, our core properties that we have on television, but it's just looking at it in a different way. If I could give an example, Grant, who's on the panel, but he's not with us yet, through a visual, we actually have a partnership with the Kicker. NBC Sports and the Kicker have launched a new digital series. It's called Sports the Musical, ? And we take a look back at the weekend sports and do it around a musical theme, which is completely outside of the way we would normally cover sports on NBCSports.com, but it's much more aligned with the way that people are consuming short form video on social especially. So that's one way of us looking at how do we extend and become even more relevant across digital and social platforms beyond the core events that we produce. So we had a really fun look back at the NHL All-Star Game. Grant and his team at the Kicker did a phenomenal job with us. But a year ago, this isn't something that we would have entertained across NBCSports.com.
And why is that? I mean, why wouldn't you have entertained something like that? Was it a bureaucracy thing, or was it something related to your business model?
I think that we looked at the business model. We looked at ways that we can try to grow as it relates to live streaming, which is the heart and soul of NBC Sports. There are only so many live events that are available to stream, and large media companies like us have been doing this for years. It's not like you just wake up and it's going to be 2016, let's go out and try to stream the Super Bowl or try to stream a big event. But that whole ecosystem has been in place for years and years. So if we're looking at ways to try to extend our brand, to try to grow our business and look at it from a fiduciary responsible way, short form video and the growth of video is certainly a way that we feel we can do it.
Okay. And when you look at, specifically the Kicker, and I know you've got a partnership with them, how do you think sports and comedy mix well there?
Everyone we've talked to and the initial results that we've seen, it's a consistent message, which is good luck. Sports and comedy is really difficult. And the roadside is littered with a lot of companies who've tried to do it. To have a strong production value, a strong extension of our traditional brand, we knew that it wasn't going to be very easy to do. However, we think that in this short amount of time, we've got 2 episodes that we've released with the Kicker. We're really pleased with the initial response. More so the response within our building and the way people have looked at this and not frowned upon it as the digital guys trying to go rogue and do something that's crazy and different that doesn't necessarily align with our history. That has been really, really overwhelmingly positive so far. Getting some traction, bringing in sponsors, creating a business around that is not going to happen overnight, but we're confident with the first couple of steps that we've taken.
Yeah, did you see the one with Weird Al Yankovic, who didn't look anything like Weird Al Yankovic? I mean, it was very clever what you guys did there, the typical sports conference. That was clever.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Grant and the Kicker, but I know that when Broadway Productions had announced that they were launching this new video franchise, this new production company, and the Kicker is the brand around sports, we thought it was just a natural synergy for us as a company to be able to do something with the people who are funny and have a history of Saturday Night Live, not necessarily at the Kicker, but distant cousins, so to speak. So we thought that if anyone's going to be funny, let's try to align with the experts rather than do it ourselves, which takes away some of the risks.
Well, speaking of funny, we finally have Grant. Welcome, Grant.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh,
See
wonderful.
you well, hear you well.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I moved to the cell phone.
Okay. Strange that it didn't work on your laptop, but
it's always great when you have digital conversations and then digital things keep you from joining those conversations.
That's right. That's right. That's the world we live in. It'll get better. So Grant, we were just talking about sports and comedy and, the history of those two things coming together. I actually think if somebody could make it work, it would probably be you because of your work with The Onion. And if just applying it to sports, I mean, if you look at the target, demographic, people that like sports are into comedy for sure. Most of my friends are. Most of the people I know that are into sports love comedy. But I'm curious how you marry the two and what your thoughts are going forward.
Yeah, I think that, we, going back to my days at The Onion, we did a TV show called Onion Sports Dome on Comedy Central. And, it had one season of television, and like a lot of television shows, didn't work. And I think a big reason that we saw that it didn't work is its inability to be relevant. I remember still the premiere episode was something where there was a joke about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and something about Tom Brady having acid poured on his face and ruining his beautifully sculpted face and figure, something weird like that. And it was actually the Monday or Tuesday right after the Patriots had lost their first game of the season. And so Patriots fans were, beside themselves. And I think at that point they were like 15-1. So it was a huge deal. But it had no mention of that. And I think that was something that we saw as a problem. And because of the production cycle as it was, we couldn't react to that, to that story. And I think one of the exciting things about The Kicker, and, just piggybacking off the stuff Troy was talking about with Sports the Musical, our first episode that we did was the Monday after the AFC Championship game, where the Patriots lost to the Broncos. And we were able to adjust the creative. It led to a fairly late Sunday night production meeting, but able to adjust the creative and shoot something that Monday. And only digital really gives you that flexibility based on the length. It was about less than a 2-minute video. So that to me is the reason that we think that we're going to be able to make this work, is our ability to be flexible and be really able to pivot based on what's happening in the world of sports, just because it's 24-hour coverage. If you're not a part of that, you're not going to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the big challenge, right? Is not only coming up with content to fill in the gaps between the major events that you guys are covering at NBC Sports. Grant, I assume you cover just about anything you want, plus you're devising your own shows. We brought up the weird Ali Yankovic example. So how do you guys look at creating video topics? I mean, what is your approach to this? It seems like there's a lot of content, a lot of things going on, a lot of events worldwide. It seems like there's a lot of potential topics for you, but you've got to put your own unique spin on it, because you don't, especially with you, Grant, with The Kicker, it can't be straight news. You've got to do something unique and interesting with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's exciting, and I think this is part of just the digital landscape, is the need to, in order to create a brand, which is what we're trying to do, create a new brand, having a really specific direction to go in, right? And our DNA from the Broadway video top to the bottom is, scripted comedy. And so we really want to stay in that direction. And the good thing about providing content and giving us a place to sort of riff from is every angle in sports is covered now, right? You're not just talking about the game. You're talking about what happened before the game, what happened after the game, who's dating who, what the media is saying about this. I mean, I think the other advantage we have to doing this today versus doing it, even 5 years ago, is there are so many outlets that are covering so many different aspects of sport that the field of which you are working with from a comedy standpoint is so much richer because of the coverage that exists already.
Yeah. What do you think, Troy? I mean, what is NBC Sports approach? I mean, you've got a lot of competition from ESPN and others, right? Especially small startups.
We do. And I know a couple of people have been wondering about the platform that we have? What's the business model behind it? Is it pay? Is it some sort of creative model? First and foremost, we are a television company. We have a whole ecosystem that is driven by the bundle. It's driven by people who are still the mass audience. The majority of live sports video consumption occurs on the television. And it's important for us that as much as we want to do on digital and as aggressive as we want to be, we still are mindful of that piece that's driving our business. On top of that, as you look at ways to try to differentiate, to try to grow your business outside of the live element, things like what we're doing with the kicker, it's a natural for us to go out. It's an ad-supported type model. It's not constrained by our traditional ecosystem, and it allows us to test and trial some things. We don't have all the answers, but what we have is an open mind and ability to try to sample some programming, see what works, and it's a totally different audience. If you look at the theme of this topic today, social, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, even amongst those audiences, they all consume differently. So we just try to go into it and say, what can we do that's different, that's compelling and interesting, and to use Grant's word earlier, relevant, and to do it in a way that's still true to our brand and helps us ultimately really help the entire business that we have. So we're going to try to, if we can, look at properties like the Olympics, like the NFL, like the NHL. They're our partners. They're an important part of what we do. We're not going to go out and try to ridicule them on digital. We're not going to rock the boat and be completely silly. But we're going to take different, fresh approaches and try to cover the sport and generate interest in a way that maybe hasn't been done before. Much easier said than done, to your point earlier, Mark.
I don't even know how you guys could possibly do it, because I look at what we do with video. We're not set up. We don't have a production like you guys do, but we have a production. But just thinking about how to keep up on Snapchat, on YouTube, and all the channels where people, Facebook, where people are consuming video. What are both of your approaches to that? And then my follow-up question will be around Snapchat, but just looking at how you guys syndicate that content and then break it up for the channels, because what you do on Vine can't be the same thing you do on Instagram or on Snapchat. They're all different formats with different time limits and so on and so forth. Grant, any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and one that we talk about a lot. I think for us, in the same way we want to stay focused on what we do best. We want to, as we're in a very different place than Troy and his team, because we're trying to grow our brand. And so for us, it's important for us to really, for this year, drive audience through the places where we've already got good traction. So right now that's largely Facebook and YouTube. And we're starting to do a little more with live coverage on Twitter. But really, we've had a lot of great results with native video on Facebook, and we're a video first company. So we've done a lot of experimenting with Facebook native video and had a lot of success.
But Grant, it's not SEO friendly. So when you say success on Facebook, is it just on that for that time that you're broadcasting, or is there?
Yeah, well, because a lot of so the way our video strategy is really to do two things on Facebook video: be reactionary, be able to pivot on whatever happened last night, last hour in sports, and have a take on it, have a comedy take on it, and that often is done through video, and then experiment a little bit and take a format and say, like, well, we don't know if we want to put our full marketing team behind this. We don't know if we want to put our full production team behind this, but we feel like there's something here. So let's do it lo-fi. Let's do it in a way that is, going to reach people so they can tell us if it works or not, and we can sort of experiment, but not have it be something that takes, a ton of time and production resources. So that is mainly, so for the SEO thing, we do all of our what we call hero videos, because they're our heroes. It's once a week, every Thursday. It's got, our lead producer puts them together, our top director directs them, and we put paid marketing behind them. We put PR behind them. We try and get when we can, a big name in them. And that is where we're betting on SEO. That is where we're betting on an evergreen library of content that then we can, leverage over time. And it's not to say we don't promote it on Facebook, but it's not produced for Facebook. It's more of it's produced for, to send around to potential advertisers and see if they would want to be interested in it. It's to, with a lot of these other platforms who are either licensing or, ordering originals, we would send it to them. So it's almost two tiers of content. And we treat Facebook specifically as a place to experiment and to react to timely news events in sports. And then to your question about Snapchat and other platforms, we are absolutely interested in exploring those. And that is a part of what we want to do. For us, it's just making sure we stay focused on growing our audience. And I think diversifying our platforms is something that we will look to do in 2016, but so far have not. Just because I think what you don't want to do is take what you're producing for Facebook or another platform and just repurpose it for Snapchat. Yeah. I think you alluded to that, Mark. It doesn't work. Not a great experience, not a great way to introduce your brand to an audience on Snapchat. So I think unless you have the resources to commit to a platform, it's not worth moving over there.
I mean, that's just my thought in general as a marketer. I don't see the value in Snapchat yet. I mean, I could see potential value, but any message that disappears within 24 hours or the second after you click the thing doesn't seem to be of much value to me. I could see person to person, but I can't see brand to individuals yet on why that would be valuable. But if somebody's got a use case that makes sense, I'd be happy to talk about it. So Troy, I want to go to you and talk about syndication across these different channels.
Yep.
What the NBC Sports kind of philosophy is on getting that content across those different channels that have different limitations.
Sure. If you segment our business between live long-form video and short-form video on demand, the first part is the most difficult, and we have a lot of restrictions that are, for the right reasons, are not going to go away. I think if you look at live sports, we have long-term deals with rights holders well into the 2020s. So consuming your live sports by way of us, and whether that be on a television set or a different digital device, we strongly believe in that. The reality is, when you think of places like Facebook for a live game, realistically, the majority of that consumption, well over 3/4 of that consumption, is happening on a mobile device. And certainly more and more people are watching by way of mobile devices, but if you're going to sit down and plan your Super Bowl viewing around 2 to 3 hours in front of your small screen mobile device, you have to think that there's a better way of doing that. And we believe that the large-scaled audiences around the big screen television set aren't going to go away overnight. The second part of it, though, is when you look at short-form video, I think people are becoming increasingly more comfortable with the smaller screen. And if you look at places like a Facebook, it makes it so much easier now to get access to your video, to discover the short-form video. And as audiences and eyeballs continue to spend more and more time on social, whether we have the magic bullet or not, we're gonna continue to try to find ways to program to those audiences. So Facebook has been really strong, Twitter as well. We've looked at Snapchat. I think you asked our social media group, who would probably say that they work 10 times as hard with 1/10 the resources that you have across traditional media. We try to do what we think our audiences want on those platforms. And I know that's an easy, generic answer that anyone can say, but really is how we try to approach it. We also try to dabble in things in video now that are outside of what we would normally do, but may fit for that specific platform. By way of example, we've broadcast the dog show around Thanksgiving on NBC for years. And this was the first year we actually brought Chance into the studio to comment on the dog show and create some short form video clips that we tested on social. That has a chance of success on a platform like a Facebook, but it may not work quite so well if you look at it from a linear television perspective.
So do you have like a team of people on each channel, like Instagram, Vine, what have you, or is it one person doing all those different channels?
We do. We have multiple people, but it's your classic case of a startup within a extremely large media company. We'd love to be able to say that we have a huge team. We don't. We are pretty lean and mean. That we do a fantastic job. But if you look at some of the companies that are out there that have a half dozen to a dozen bodies that are just programming for Snapchat, we're not doing that. We're trying to still look at it from an ROI lens of what bodies are we going to put against it and what's the realistic chance of success, primarily from a financial perspective. And we've treaded cautiously, but that means that our social team that we have ends up doing more and biting off more than we can realistically chew.
Okay, and now I want to move to like major sporting events. Now that we have your philosophy around, creating video and then how you syndicate it across the many different channels that are out there, it's really difficult, and I understand that, especially if you don't have a big team. But when we look at something like Super Bowl this weekend, A, are you guys planning anything special online, either one of you? And B, what is your approach to creating video for major events, whether it's sports or anything else? Let's start with Grant.
So for us, we will actually, one of the things we're doing is in association with Troy and his team, actually, we will have a video that comes out right after the Super Bowl, as quickly after the Super Bowl as we can make it. It'll be commenting, reacting to the Super Bowl. I think we're still narrowing down the exact idea, and plus you guys should just all go watch it anyway. But I think that's one thing. And then we are also doing, we'll be covering it live, reacting to it live, doing a lot of Twitter coverage. We'll have a full team covering it. I think what we, where we fit in nicely is doing some of the sort of reactionary stuff that's a little bit lower touch and more article based, Twitter based, some disposable video. And then this Thursday, we'll be putting out a video on thekicker.com that analyzes the difference between the team of people that are Peyton Manning's fans and the team of people that are Cam Newton's fans. So it's sort of just shining a light on the difference in demographic and how those two groups of people might be watching the game on Sunday. So that's our hero video that we're putting out around the Super Bowl.
So are you going to be more reactionary, like you have a studio set up and you're just shooting video on demand based on what you saw in the game? Is that what you mean by reactionary, or do you have a plan?
We'll be covering it. We'll be covering it on Twitter through articles. We'll have a war room where all our guys are together watching it, pointing out what's funny. I mean, our process is a little different in that, like, we search for what's funny that's happening and try and point it out to our audience and say, look at that, wasn't that funny? Versus, an in-depth analysis of what's happening.
Okay, fair enough. And Troy, I assume you don't take that approach at NBC Sports. It might be a little different.
Yeah, our approach would be, it's twofold. If we were covering the Super Bowl live, which we did last year, it's a different approach than what it would be this year, for example, with CBS having the game. So there's the live coverage aspect, and then there's everything else around the game. And our approach is, just because we don't have the game doesn't mean that we don't provide the insight, the news, the analysis, whether it be video form, in text, you name it. We're going to have across social a really strong presence so that we have a voice around the game. One example, and if you look at short form video specifically, we've launched digital shorts, which is something that we've done for a little more than a quarter now. And what we're doing with the Kickers is the latest example. Just shortly, breaking news, so to speak. We're going to launch another franchise this week, and it's going to be called Ever Wonder. And Ever Wonder is basically a series that's going to be short form, quick hits, video hits about these little fast facts around different sporting events and coverage. So, for example, ever wonder what the most expensive or valuable trophy is in sports? Is it the Super Bowl trophy, the Stanley Cup? We're going to do a boatload of short form videos around that topic, and we're going to begin this weekend around the Super Bowl. Again, it's a little bit different than what our traditional coverage would be if we had the game live on our air and live streaming it. We're not looking to ambush, we're not looking to go silent, but we're still looking to have a presence and voice around the weekend.
And how do you guys do that? Do you guys sit around a table and just ideate, or how do you brainstorm what to do during a big event? And this could be for either of you.
Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a writer's room. So we try to be as collaborative as possible. And part of it is what is, as I mentioned earlier, what's reasonable within the timeline that we want to work with. And there's that sort of, I think there's a little bit in terms of original productions, there's that scale or spectrum of the more timely it is, the more your audience will forgive you for something being lo-fi, versus the longer you wait, the expectation is this better be really funny, or this better be really cool. And I think, where you don't want to get caught is in the middle. So if there's something that we're trying to do quickly, we want to make sure and manage the creative scope to make sure we can do it. And if it's something that we feel like is going to have legs in terms of the news cycle, do we have a plan to make it, a little bit larger and more impressive and more engaging on that side?
Okay, Troy, any thoughts around the process?
I think for us, we have certain things that we are strategic about and we plan well in advance. For example, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, is a big brand that we're really proud to have under the NBC Sports umbrella. Mike is out in San Francisco around Super Bowl all week. He's generating video, he's generating radio, we've got all kinds of stories, and we plan for that well in advance. We have a video team, we have people that's the must-have base level things that we'll be doing. On top of that, we'll have other creative parts of the company. We'll work closely with social, we'll work with all kinds of people who will have a voice for ideas that we could do around digital and around social to extend our coverage. And some of those, they happen based on what's going on in the real world and how can we capture certain things that are trending, whether it be on social, whether it's in search. We try to be more opportunistic beyond just being strategic and planning in advance.
Okay, and Grant, what is your approach to Periscope or Meerkat or any live streaming applications? Do they have a place in your organization?
We the one time we've done it, it was for a big branded program we did, and JB Smoove, who was our star of our series we did with the NFL and Lenovo computers over the summer, periscoped live from an event. I think it was an NFL event that he was at. We have not, from an editorial side, experimented with it yet. I think it's something that we could, and I think as we develop more character-based stuff, we will want to have our characters that we create. One of the characters we just recently created was a series we did called Lil Belichick. And Lil Belichick is a series about Bill Belichick when he was 9 years old and how he acted in school. As we create more characters like that, I think that is the space for us to engage in live coverage on stuff like Periscope, Meerkat. To date, the real thing we've used it for is to make it a fancy, add-on to a branded program that we do.
Okay. Troy, any thoughts around live streaming video?
We try to embrace it. We know it's difficult. There are a lot of rights restrictions, and sometimes that makes it harder for a big media company like us that has a lot of relationships and barriers in place, so to speak, around doing something that may be, whether it's disruptive or it's just not in people's comfort zone yet, it makes it more difficult. But we test and trial. We've done some things. We'll do more and more of this. inevitably there's the push-pull of, are you doing something that's actually complementing your business and growing your business, or are you doing something that is disrupting and cannibalizing it? If that's the case, it's okay. You just need to figure it out in the broader picture. What are you getting out of it? And we've looked at it so far as there are some great nice to haves. There's some great all access moments that you can get from your talent, you can get from athletes. That's fantastic, but trying to figure out the secret sauce of the best way to do it and to build a business around it is something that we're still trying to sort through.
Okay. Well, thanks for the honesty around that. That's another topic that I'm looking at, is how do you turn live streaming into dollars? And I know some claim to have done that more so than Snapchat. I haven't heard anyone say that on Snapchat. But for you guys specifically who are focused on video and then live video, which I think for sports is probably the future, whatever that future is, because it makes a lot of sense, how you convert that into something that's profitable. I'm very interested to see how that comes about.
It's a great question, and just a quick aside. I mean, for us, we've been doing it for years around major sporting events. But if you look at something topical, today the Players Tribune had announced that they're going to live stream during National Signing Day around Michigan with Derek Jeter and Tom Brady, and I think it was Ric Flair, and pretty interesting personalities. It's a different way of trying to cover something through a live stream. As I read that, and I'm curious, it's our business. How do you monetize it? Do you want to monetize it? Maybe that's not even their goal at this stage, but it's certainly, we're seeing that the barriers to entry are really getting blown away to live streaming. Whether you can do it in a great storytelling manner that has tens of thousands of dollars of production built into it, that's a whole other question. And then whether social platforms and audiences really want or need that for certain things is another question. But it is a fascinating time.
So my next question is around budget. We've had a few questions on the right-hand side around this. First of all, at a live event, do you need a big production or setup? And if so, what's the budget for something like that? Also, do you need a big budget to produce video if you're a smaller organization, not NBC Sports, but something more like the Kicker?
Well,
go ahead, Troy.
I'll say that there's an extremely wide range of options. And I remember going back to 2008, there was a company who would allow you to live stream high school live events by way of a streaming production in a box solution for $1,000 or so. The cost can be really limited, and then also if you think of your phone, which has a built-in video capability, as being the next piece of production, it's really cheap and really easy to do it. The other extreme is if you look at a Super Bowl production, if you look at what we have planned for the Rio Olympics, I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars per event. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars very quickly. And then you're talking about millions and millions of dollars if you're talking about a big world-class event. So it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And if you're a rights holder like the NFL, the NBA, NHL, you expect a certain level of production quality and capability, which is why you're going to have extremely high price points on your rights, and you're going to have companies that are willing to pay that. How that extends to scale is a great question, but again, the ability for someone to stream at an event is pretty easy now. It's just a matter of what you're looking to do for your brand and the quality that you're willing to live with.
And Grant, how did you determine the budget for your production of online video? I mean, how did you guys come up with that and figure that one out?
I mean, it's totally dependent on the whole, on who are, if there's a partner involved, what their expectations are, whether it be a network, whether it be an advertiser. It also depends on the platform you're delivering it, right? I think people on Facebook are it's a short video. You just want to get a really good joke in there and get in and get out. So maybe it's 30 seconds long. I think and also what we talk a lot about, we're writing our things, we're creating our things, which gives us the option. If you spend $1,000 on a, NFL Sunday night game that's going to show, and people have come to expect a certain level of production quality that you can't get for that amount of money. But the thing that we have is we're creating our world from scratch. So if the idea can be delivered to the audience in a way that doesn't seem strange, or the joke still gets across, we can absolutely keep cost at a very, manageable level. But we're all over the map with the costs of our videos. Some things, can cost in the, north of the six-figure range, and something we try and put together for $500. I think it's the most important thing is what does it cost? And I have a background in production, which, helps have this conversation, but what does it cost to effectively do this video? And what are the expectations of who you're delivering this video to, whether it be the audience, the partner that you're working on it with, or the advertiser, whoever it might be? What are the expectations there? And just making sure those expectations are clear.
Okay. Troy.
I go back to what are you trying to accomplish? Grant summed it up well. It depends on your whole ecosystem of the advertiser, your audiences, and all the constraints that you have to work within. And as long as you keep that in mind before you're producing something, that will impact your budgets, that will impact the type of video that you deliver and where you're going to end up delivering it. Most notably recently, we're looking at using the kicker example again, the short form bite-sized minute or less clips. That's an area where we haven't had a boatload of success that we're really looking to expand into.
Okay, but produce a minute-long video, Grant. That could be anything from what, $200 to $1,000 to free, I would imagine, depending on who's on camera. If you've got somebody like Weird Al, that probably costs you more.
Well, it totally depends on the situation. And yes, I mean, it could, a 1 minute video could also cost, there's a lot of commercials out there that cost $1 million plus, and they're 30 seconds, just the production, not even the airtime. So yeah, it is so dependent. The thing that we do is we have a lot of good relationships. We have a lot of great relationships with comedic talent. And so, it just depends if there's a sponsor involved in something, and they have to be, engaging with the product that the sponsor is trying to deliver on in any way, that changes the conversation entirely. If it's a fun, video that's going to be just for editorial purposes, and the talent really likes the joke and wants to experiment in the digital space, that's a very different conversation too. Talent, as you brought up, Mark, often is the thing that sways these things from being, really affordable and something that is very cost effective to something that could be really expensive.
Okay, Mark, from our lens too, it's a little different approach, because we've invested in production studios, we've invested in the facilities, we've invested in talent. We have a lot of rights that we've paid a lot of money for. And from a digital perspective, a lot of the things that we do are at no cost or low cost, which we've already invested in and are trying to amortize that across these new businesses that we're pursuing, which is a different approach than someone coming in off the street that has to produce a facility or rent Avid Suites or do whatever to try to step up the quality of their video. So from our lens, we try to think that we're doing it at a really, really low cost rate. Yet in hindsight, a lot of that is low cost because we've already invested in big paychecks elsewhere to fund this.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you got a huge advantage because a lot of the costs that you have are already sunk within other sister organizations or parent organizations.
Right.
So that's quite an advantage. My next question, I think, levels the playing field, and that is around, okay, you produce these videos, so what is your distribution strategy? How do you get a lot of eyeballs to look at these videos, either organically or through paid. I'm very interested in how you guys get people to view these videos. Start with Grant.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that we do is, like I said, with our hero videos, we try and focus our entire marketing team on getting plays for that video. And that comes through, I would say, probably 3 specific lanes. It's probably not going to surprise anyone on this, which is, PR. That's something that we are always pushing. We have a lot of great relationships with publishers that have a like-minded audience that we think would like the content. And certainly when there's big talent, Weird Al, you mentioned, got picked up a lot in media. So that's one angle that we always try and push for our hero video. The second is social. We're always trying to build our social platforms. That's why we do most of what we do. We're not making huge dollars on our original videos, but what we're trying to do is build up that audience as much as we can, so it can become a valuable audience to partners, to advertisers. That's a huge part of our strategy. And then, the last thing would be paid. We will try and amplify a lot of times, and we don't put paid to the point where it outvalues the video itself. But what it can do often is it can start the fire that sort of gets the organic viewership up. So, we'll try and put a little bit of paid behind something we think might be performing well. If it starts to pop organically, we may feed more paid into it. If it doesn't pop organically, we may back off the paid strategy. So our paid strategy is very much a real-time one, and one that we monitor closely, certainly around our big videos.
And Grant, is that on Facebook? When you say paid, is that on Facebook, YouTube, a combination of things? What specifically?
Well, we've shifted our strategy a bit, actually, Mark. So for a while, we were very heavy on YouTube, and really focusing on there to distribute. And we've now seen our videos large, especially on the kicker side, because of our news coverage and being as part of the sports sort of news publisher cycle. We started to see more traction on Facebook, and obviously they don't have a formal monetizing strategy yet. But we started to shift our paid over to Facebook a bit more, just because we feel like an ROI there is a little stronger. And like I said, a lot of the content we're making is news-based. We do some on YouTube, and it depends a little bit, again, on the partner and what the expectations are. But yeah, it's mostly Facebook and YouTube that we put our paid dollars behind.
Okay, Troy, your distribution strategy.
A little bit of a different approach. We're coming from a legacy business that has a lot of legacy relationships. First and foremost, if you're producing content that has rights restrictions or relationship restrictions, that's our starting point. And from there, we look at it and we say, what makes the most sense for what we're trying to accomplish? Usually what we're trying to accomplish is driven by sales. Also driven by audience need, and some might say we should reprioritize that. But the reality is, when we produce video, when there is something incremental, we are looking for a return on that. And in most cases, what we want to do to get the eyeballs is going to be driven by our sales needs. So we'll have projections and budgets that we're trying to hit. That may determine whether we put paid behind it or not. We also have brand and marketing goals that are critical to our business. While we have a tremendously large media organization in NBC Universal and what we like to call symphony of being able to use cross platforms and brands to market content and to market things, everyone's looking to get that same promotion. And there are a lot of hands to feed, so we can't rely on that. We look into our distribution partners to supplement that. And the easier part is to do it from a marketing perspective. The more difficult part is to negotiate a partnership so that there's a mutually beneficial interest between a company like a Facebook and NBC Sports. So just speaking with a couple of real-world examples, if you looked back at what we had done over the Super Bowl, over big events like Sochi Olympics, we actually had partnerships where we negotiated long, difficult partnerships with Facebook, with Twitter, with Yahoo and Tumblr, others as well. And in doing that, it's different than just looking at, oh, let's go do paid to get increased eyeballs on our content. With a broader strategic partnership, we're able to provide value from a TV perspective, some presence within our primetime presentation, for example. And it's a completely different model than maybe how someone like Grant or newer brands would be coming into the conversation on those different platforms. It's not to say that one is right or wrong. I think both have their merit. For us, though, we try to look at it from a big strategic perspective first, looking at sales, looking at partnerships, and then adding the distribution component on top of that.
Okay, is there anything specific, Troy, that worked really well in terms of your distribution strategy? I mean, is it your partners that get the video out the most, or do you have some kind of paid channel or specific thing that you do?
I'll tell you what's worked the best, what we never expected. And as one example, we've had a strategic partnership with Yahoo for years, and we went into that partnership way back in 2012. And we said, okay, we've got the #1 show in television, Sunday Night Football. Let's take some short form video on Sunday night after we're done producing, and let's have an original programming umbrella by way of our Yahoo partnership that's going to drive a boatload of eyeballs to it. We did that and we tested it, and the reality is that the way people were consuming on Yahoo, and arguably still consuming on Yahoo and other portals and social outlets, is completely different than that. They're not looking for talking heads that work on TV on a big screen, high definition television experience on their portable mobile device that they're watching video while they're commuting or wherever else it may be. So we created a new franchise with Yahoo called Mad Dash that would focus on things more like the Jets playing their game in Europe and needing to fly over their pages so that it felt more like home. It's a completely different content strategy that we saw success with on Yahoo, and we're trying to take that same approach across these different distribution platforms. So we've moved off of the walled garden approach that we had a couple of years ago. We've tested some things on Facebook, on Yahoo, on Twitter. We're on Watchable with Comcast right now. We've gotten into some vessel and new areas that you wouldn't have thought you'd find us a year or two ago. And there's no easy answer that works across all of them, but we try to be really strategic with each different platform.
Okay. And then my last question, and this was raised in the comments on the right-hand side, is how do you guys look at return on investment? Are you constantly experimenting and say, okay, this one type of format works? Maybe it's with a star, maybe it's organic, maybe it's spur of the moment like you do, Grant, and will do during the Super Bowl. How are you guys looking at optimizing your revenue for each of these videos? Start with Grant.
So we will often our monetization comes a couple of ways. One of the best way we do it is if we come up with an idea that we create in short form for our platform, for ourselves, that then catches the eye of either an advertiser or, someone that's sort of purchasing original comedy content. That's the best. When our business works its best, that's our best self, because we're able to create something editorially that everybody's excited about. We've tested the content with our audience. The audience has responded favorably. Other people see that, and then they come in and say, we want to be a part of that, and we bring them along. So that is our best self. And that does come with a bit of deficit financing. So, we have an idea that, may cost some money to put together, either in talent or production or writing or all three. And we then put that together, test it, and someone comes in and buys it. Another way we do it is with custom content. So we get RFP'd from an advertiser. They're searching for X, Y, or Z, and we create something custom for what they're trying to accomplish. So that's another way we do it. And then the third way is partnering, strategic partnerships like the one we're doing with NBC, where we create something, and it can be something that's, for their platform, for our platform, for both. So those are sort of the three avenues that we bring in. We're not quite big enough yet to sell media in the way either a large digital company would or a traditional legacy media company might. We're starting to get into that a little more, and doing some weekly takeovers where they own not only the Kicker but Above Average, which is our non-sports digital property, and we're able to sort of do a full 100% share of voice across those two properties. But we're just starting to do that. So those are our ways, and I think we see our daily content as a way to build audience, so that we don't even really worry too much with the ROI on that stuff, which is why we try to manage costs the best we can on that. And that's more of a building up the audience so that last piece of business, the media selling, can become more valuable over the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay, and Troy, obviously being a large organization, you're going to look at this a little bit differently. But how are you viewing your experimentation, or maybe you've got it figured out, I don't know, in terms of the value of the videos you're putting out? Because if you're creating a lot of videos, and I know a lot of people watching this and that will watch it are thinking to themselves, well, if I get into the video game, how do I know what types of videos to put out there that are going to give me either short-term or long-term return on investment?
Yeah, we're very ROI focused. The majority of the video that we create is sponsor or sales driven. Some of the things that we're doing to experiment, we have the luxury of bigger budgets that a startup may not have necessarily, that we can test and trial some of these things, because it is expensive and it adds up quickly. The production costs, the distribution costs, the relationships across multiple distribution partners, it's not an easy thing to do. And for the most part, we are very much driven by sales and ROI. Now, we also have the luxury of a really complex, call it kick-ass sales team, that is able to bundle in sales packages so that our measure of success isn't completely a single video that we're producing and what's the return on it. We can bundle in some of our sales efforts across what we're doing with live streaming, with what we're doing across other digital properties, with what we're doing on television, and even in some cases, if you look at last year's Super Bowl, it's a really big, broad 360 sale. So we're not necessarily scrutinized on, you produce this video, what did you exactly get back to it? What's back from it? But certainly, as we're experimenting, that's the approach that we're taking, and it's not easy.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you two are building a business around video. I know it's important, and I know most companies should be doing it. For me, we advise our companies to do is produce 4 or 5 videos that line up with their sales funnels. Obviously, your approach is much different as a media company, because I feel video is important. But to see this in action and actually build a business, a profitable business around it, I'm in awe that you guys are, A, attempting it, and then B, it seems like you're pulling it off as well. So with that, I really want to thank our esteemed panelists here. I learned a lot. I hope you did. And as a reminder, if you want the replay, we're going to post this on Forbes and on the Fanatics Media website, and we'll post these on our YouTube channel as well. So any closing thoughts, Troy or Grant, as we sign off here?
I would just say thanks, Mark, for the time, and thank you to all the commenters. I was trying to respond to as many of them as I could. I think that the great I really believe the great storytelling and creation is the most important thing, and delivering something to your audience that they expect in the format they're consuming it. So I think anyone that is doing that is doing the right thing, and just to encourage them to keep doing it. And thanks, everybody, for the questions and the time.
Troy?
Likewise, thanks for the time. Don't be afraid to get out of the comfort zone. There's no easy answer to any of this, but someone's going to figure it out. We may as well keep trying.
All right. Thank you, guys.